Alrighty, roo-va-doo-be-doo.
No.
It's just gonna get longer and longer. Each time, I'm gonna come back at you with more to add.
Please don't.
How
much more could you possibly fit?
Don't ask me that. Now I have to find out and do it.
Alrighty, righty-roo.
Alrighty, Rooney, bright and shooty, hooty tooty, woohoo.
Ooh. Like it.
Thank you. It's episode 4, but we haven't watched it yet. So before we do, Darren, what do you think is going to happen this time? We left off, real quick. We left off, Unchan just kind of got, like, yelled at in front of all of her coworkers, and
shaming.
also Yuju, and she's sad, and she's crying, and she's storming off. What is next?
So, this show has established a pattern of every time I think we're gonna get into, like, the main plot, it just completely throws out everything that we built up so far and moves on to something else.
Yeah.
So, I kind of want to hedge my bets and be like, alright, this coffee plot, this shop, it's gonna stick around for probably 2 to 3 episodes. So I imagine this episode she's going to get, she's either going to get fired or consider quitting from the shop. And then Han Gyul or Mr. Hong or the entire gang of boys is going to show up and be like, wait, we need you because you have the sniff power.
Of course, her nose.
Yeah.
How could we forget?
So I think her schnoz is going to be like the reason she stays in this episode.
There's got to be a reason why we established it.
And we're also going to get more uncomfortable moments between Yuju and Han Seong.
We have to.
I'll be more concerned if they're not there, because when they're quiet is when you have to be worried.
Oh no. That's true. We were given this, like, lull in them while we, like, explored Unchan and Han Gyul for a second, and then next thing we knew, they were back together, and we were like, what?
Oh, my prediction is just gonna open, and they're going to be broken up again.
What?
And everybody's gonna act like it's completely normal.
You know. Well, sounds fun. Alright. Well, with that in mind, let's go watch, shall
Please.
we? Alright. Hi, I'm Kara, and I'm into rom-coms.
Hi, I'm Jaren, and I'm into ice cream forum posts.
But we're both into hot drinks and hot boys.
And this is... Just Kiss Already!
We're back. We watched it. We did it. Everyone, it's episode 4. And you know what that means.
It means my prediction was wrong again. I'm 0 for 4 currently.
Oh, man. You know, with so many twists and turns for no goddamn reason, it's hard to predict what's going to happen.
During the recap bit where they show clips from the end of the last episode,
Yeah.
I noticed that they have this nice scene where Han Kyul is walking, like, right to left behind the window, and Unchan is walking left to right in front of it.
Oh.
And I remembered hearing somewhere that, like, oh yeah, your protagonist generally moves left to right across the frame.
Oh.
So the antagonist moves right to left.
Oh.
So, like, in that moment, they were opposed.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice little thing to show you visually.
Yeah.
That they're moving apart from each other.
Oh, man. Well, we cut back. We know that we don't really cut back, like, right exactly to where we left off.
Yeah.
We kind of have a little bit of this, like, Hangyul Yuju discourse.
Yeah. This relationship that just keeps getting a little bit weirder each episode.
Yeah.
So they're walking down the street. And she's like, oh man, you're so hot when you're responsible.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, you know. And
you know how it is.
she grabs his hand and she just starts swinging, like, as hard as she possibly can.
Yeah, she's going, like, full kid.
Yeah, and it's very cute. And she's like, you can't be mad or upset when I do this, can you? And he's like, I guess not.
Guess I can't. I did actually write in this moment, I can't hate Yuju. She has proven herself to be a character that I don't think I hate at all. And I feel like in the past watchings, I've also been like, I like Yuju. My problem is always with Han Seong.
Yeah, there's a moment a little later where I'll talk about, like, I do really like Yuju as a character, and also just as, like, a person in this relationship with these two guys.
Yeah.
Like, I think she's being responsible, which is not something that you generally see with these kind of things.
Yeah. So then we cut to Unchan, like, in the little kitchen probably like washing dishes. I don't even remember. I was more focused on the fact that instead of going through the saloon doors, CB decides to go underneath them.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was just trying to like sneak through or
Yeah.
like not betray his presence.
You know.
But Unchen immediately is like, she calls him out and just starts throwing like several hand towels.
She smacks him right in the face with a towel. She just, and she's like, dude.
She's like, I told you 2 kilograms, and he's like, oh, I forgot.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure what you said. I did my best. And she's like, you're dumb.
And then Mr. Hong like calls her in to help roast these beans.
Yeah, we have a cool like bean roast session.
Yeah, like a nice sesh.
Mm-hmm.
But we see Hangul like go to the bean man.
Yes.
And then in voiceover, the bean man's like, I'm sorry, we had to order these beans. We can't return the beans. It would cost too much.
Yeah.
And Hangul's like, oh, it's okay.
So then he calls Grandma, and he's like, time to try and sweet talk Grandma one more time.
Oh, yeah. He even specifically is like, hey, I just wanted to talk.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Grandma.
And she's like, I heard you bought all these fucking beans.
He's like, oh, no.
Yeah, word travels fast.
Yeah, Grandma finds out about literally everything within, like, a couple minutes of it happening. It's very wild.
She's, like, walking through this, like, nice lab as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, an actual lab.
Yeah. She's just, like, tasting the coffee beans, being like, hey, listen, Hangul, don't mess up.
She's like, look, so you need money. I can give you a loan at 10% APR.
Oh, I got 20% interest.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that she's even more shrewd in your version.
Dude, everyone's a little bit more shrewd in my version. It seems like everyone's just a little more harsh.
Yeah, and Hangul's like, no, I want you to buy them from me. And she's like, why would I buy beans? I sell beans.
Yeah.
So
then we cut back to the bean roast boys. We're having a roasting session where we're literally just roasting coffee beans.
Oh, yeah, and then we'll have a session where we roast each other.
Of course, that'll
later
happen.
In the episode.
But right now, it's time to roast the beans. So Hangul comes in and he's like, What are y'all doing? Why are you roasting the beans? And Mr. Hong just kind of like knows exactly what's up. Like, he's like, what do you mean? Like, we gotta roast the beans and then we can sell them to people.
Yeah.
Easy. And then Hangul is like, wait a minute. That's a good idea. And then he starts doing like cool mind like business.
He does his thing where he thinks on his feet and he very quickly comes up with solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because Mr. Hong is like he's like cold calling people almost.
Yeah.
Trying to get them to buy the product like sight unseen. He's like, what do you mean a sample?
Yeah.
And then we have like sample.
Yeah.
And like it echoes in Hangul's head.
He's like, wait a minute.
He's like, that's it.
I know what we can do. So we're shown again that they make a very good team because Mr. Hong has very much like set the groundwork for this idea where he's like, hey, we can roast these beans and sell them to people, but he doesn't know quite the best way to do it. And then Hangul comes in with his like on the feet thinking and is like, oh, I know, we can give people samples, we can do this, I'll go out and be my charming marketing self and then get them sold so they can make some money off of all of these beans that they bought, or at least earn back what they lost by ordering way too many beans. So yeah, we making the beans work. It's great. And then we cut to this really cute like delivery montage, and I love it a lot because I really just love this slow development of the great team that Unchan and CB make.
Yeah.
It's so good.
CB, Charlie Brown, Carrot Boy.
We love him. We actually learned his real name.
I didn't even write it down.
I did just because.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm
we
gonna
should
keep calling him CB. His name is Min Yup.
Min Yup. Oh, I like it.
Yeah, like Min Yup. Here, I wrote it down if you want to see it.
Min Yup.
Min Yup.
Okay.
But we're gonna keep calling him CB because that's who he is.
Yes.
So yeah, they're making this cool little tag team duo. There's a lot of running in front of the scooter and around the scooter instead of using the scooter.
Yes.
And then we climb on the scooter finally. Also, Harim is getting in there. He's, rolling up to this one lady and she like gives him a sandwich as he
and he's like,
beans.
oh, a sandwich.
Cool. Yeah, so he's charming his way.
They're like specifically delivering to places that are supplied by like the Dongan Food Corporation.
Really?
Yeah, he calls, Hangul does, he calls and he's like, can I get a list of local places that are supplied by Dongan?
Ah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Cool. So then we cut to Unchan like sadly watching Hangul flirt with Yuju.
Yeah.
It's like really,
like there's
cool
this
and fun.
There's this weird like baby moment where he's like trying to talk to her and he's like, listen, this was a serious mistake and like you need to tell me it's not gonna happen again.
Yeah.
She's just pushing over, like, bags of beans like a
Oh
cat.
my god, yeah. So first we cut to, like, this little flirting moment where she's angrily looking at them, and then he comes over and he's like, hey, we need to talk about this. And she's just, like, literally, yeah, she's pushing them like a cat, smacking them onto piles. She's got a Sharpie in her hand, and she's like, whatever, dude. Whatever. Freaking don't talk to me, Hangul.
Freaking Hangul is like, get out. That's it. Get out.
Yeah.
And then Ha-rim comes over to, like, rub his shoulders.
Yeah, he's like, no,
he's like, calm down, please. And then Eun-chan is just ignoring him.
Yeah.
Ugh. God.
And then it kind of escalates a little, because Hangul just, my issue with it is that he keeps yelling at her, like, in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, he can't even, like, be like, hey, I need to talk to you about this thing that you did wrong. He just kind of, like, in front of everybody berating her, being like, listen, you messed up and you're stupid. And she's so sad. She's so upset.
Like, it's interesting because she's like, it looks like she's trying not to cry.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because he keeps telling her, like, don't cry.
Yeah.
So, like, she's just, like, fighting it, holding it in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also because, like, she's not apologizing because she didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's like she has this, like, really overdeveloped sense of justice, like, when she keeps demanding Ha-rim and Hangul apologize sincerely. And now she's like, I'm not going to give a fake apology. I'm just going to cover for CB.
Yeah.
Without actually apologizing.
But then CB.
Yeah.
So I wrote for this part just, oh no, CB.
Yeah.
He rolls up and he's like, I can't anymore. I did it. It was my fault. I'm sorry.
He gets on his knees. It's great because he doesn't say, like, oh, she said 2 kilograms and I said 20.
Yeah.
She's like, I couldn't remember what she said and I just wrote 20. Like,
yeah, he basically comes in and he finally kind of, like, admits, he takes the blame now, after Eun-chan kind of, like, runs off.
Yeah.
So then there's kind of, like, this moment where, like, everybody's looking at each other like, ooh.
Yeah, Hangul literally, like, he just kind of goes, fuck!
Yeah.
Like, he feels it. He's like, oh, I did
like,
such a bad...
Damn it. So then we cut to Eun-chan crying by herself, kind of like out on the ledge, and then who comes and joins her but Yuju?
Exactly.
So Yuju kind of comes out and she kind of takes on this, like, older sister role where she's kind of like, let me tell you about a time where, like, something happened and, like, I got yelled at, even though I was, like, not the only one doing wrong, and kind of like a super embarrassing moment for me where I got yelled at in front of everybody.
Okay, I'm glad that you were able to frame it that way. I'm really happy that was the intended effect, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the way it kind of happened for me
Uh-huh.
was just Yuju sits down and she's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
want to tell you a story?
Okay.
So one time, there was a flasher at my school. And I really wanted to look.
Oh my god.
Because everybody was looking. When I pretended to study until someone said, hey, that guy flashing with his junk out on our campus, it's the hot gym teacher you like.
Oh my god.
And she goes, well, fuck, closes her book, walks over to the window and is like, fucking get out me way.
Where's the dick?
And then as she's looking, the even hotter science teacher comes up behind her and is like, what's wrong with you?
You little pervert.
God.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, again.
Okay.
Gym teacher's dick was out, so
yes.
Yuju's character was allowed to progress.
Of course. For once, we have a different dick out. Oh, wait, no. I guess we also had Sungs out at some point. Anyway, a dick is out. Character is progressing. When you put it like that, yeah, okay, fucking fine. But I also feel like there was a part of it that was kind of meant to be like, I don't know, what age does she say she was, like, middle school, high school?
Something like that.
So you're in, like, freaking prime puberty time, and you're like, wow, I wonder what dicks look like, and then here's an opportunity to see it. I don't know.
Listen, no, everybody goes through a weird change in their life at some point. But then Eun-chan's response is like, hey. Yeah.
I love this part so much.
Listen, Miss Yuju, if you're ever having a problem with a flasher,
oh my God.
The right way to deal with it is, don't even scream. They like the screaming. Just kind of look at him and go, tiny.
Yeah. Look right at his dick and go,
tiny.
I vividly remember like watching this as like a middle schooler and being like, wow, that's such a great idea, even though I've never had any kind of encounter with a flasher ever, and I don't think I will because it's not super like
it's not
popular here. It's not like a thing that people do here, I guess. But I do remember like watching that and being like, oh my god, wow, you're so right, Unchan.
Freaking, and then Unchan is like, oh man, Yuju, you're so cool, you do good art, and you're like a cool older lady, and I think you're really cool. And Yuju goes, yeah, you're right.
I love it. I love
am
it
all
so
those
much.
things. Yeah.
She's just like, wow, Yuju, you're amazing. And Yuju's like, yeah, dude, I am.
Well, when you put it like that, yeah, I totally am.
Then we have a little bit of a slippy slip.
Yeah.
So then, Unchan kind of like in retaliation, or not in retaliation, that's the wrong word, but in response to this story about her being like embarrassed because she liked her hot teachers and wanted to see his dick or whatever, she's like, oh, I once had a teacher that I also liked a lot. And then, Yuju kind of is trying to be like, oh, was she really pretty? And Unchan is just like, oh my god, he was so like handsome and charming.
And he was single.
And he was single and a man. And then, for a second, she's like, oh, wait, oh, no. And Yuju is kind of like, no, I get it. Like, I too had a crush one
It's cool,
time.
my principal was hot.
Yeah. She's like, I had a crush on my, like, principal who was a girl. And so, like, either Yuju is, like, trying to save face for Unchan, or just now is like, Unchan is gay, we get it. We know now.
And, like, that's a really nice, like, happy moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, it ends with her getting a phone call.
Yes.
And then if you're me and you're watching this and you see Yuju get a phone call, you get real nervous.
Oh, no.
She just exits screen and I'm like, oh my god, is it DK? Is it Han Seong?
Is it Donkey Kong?
Which one is worse?
Is it Sad Boy? Who is it? And Unchan also kind of, like, runs off, like, smacking her head a little bit, being like, god damn it, I'm so
like,
dumb.
oh, it was such a close call.
Yeah, which, honestly, probably not... But whatever.
Yeah, and then Ha-Rim runs in and he's like, oh my god, my beautiful Unchan. Your eyes are so swollen, but you're still pretty.
Oh my god.
He's like mashing her face together. Yeah. And like this actress, I don't know what it is. She looks like her resting face, totally like just a normal human face, but when you apply pressure to the cheeks, it like balloons out and it's just so much more cheek than you think there's gonna be.
There's so much cheek. Oh my god, yeah, Ha-Rim back flirting again, being like, Unchan, who I love so much, my BB.
My Unchan.
My Unchan. So then we kind of have this, like, Hangul kind of, like, comes up and is like, hey, I don't know, he kind of, like, is still kind of like, it was still your fault, like, you still,
yeah.
Like, he's not, like, yelling anymore, but he's like, hey, just so you know, like, you don't get to, this is not some scot-free, like, you also made a mistake here, which is fair.
He was like, it's CB's fault, it's your fault, and it's Mr. Hong's fault.
Yeah.
Like, everybody but him's fault.
Of course, because he can't blame himself for not just doing it.
Because he can't then put himself in a cool headlock to show that everything is okay.
Oh my god, yeah, they have this moment where they're like, haha, it's time to bro out, where he puts Unchan in a headlock, and then Ha-Rim joins in, and then CB joins in.
They both just kind of start, like, drumming on her back.
They're just like, yeah, jumping in a circle, drumming on her back.
I wrote that all four of them start haranguing her. Like, it's just such a specific, weird kind of male bonding.
Yeah, and they're, like, having fun, but Unchan is not having it. She's like, let go of me.
She's like, hey!
Stupid.
Just because you're all here having fun putting your hands on me doesn't mean I forgive you.
Oh, man.
So she blows up and leaves, and she's trying to get a hold of somebody on the phone, and she's like, pick up.
Yeah.
But she does it, and then we get, like, a cool shot of Sweeper, like, walking by the front of the camera.
Oh my god, yeah, we get this beautiful shot of Sweeper, and we're like, oh my god, hey, Sweeper! And then, guess who's behind Sweeper? And we're like, oh, hey, Han Seong, whatever.
Oh, it's your owner.
I guess he's here too, whatever.
I guess you took him out. Wow.
And he is on the phone with Yuju.
Yes.
So now we know that phone call that Yuju got was Han Seong. And, we then, when Unchan sees Han Seong, is immediately like, oh my god, like, Sweeper and Sweeper's dad, hey,
very
what's
loud,
up?
yeah.
Just yelling, and Yuju is like, is somebody there?
Is there a cute girl with you?
Yeah,
my boyfriend, right? Han Seong?
Hey, boyfriend, is there, like, a cute girl?
It sounds like there is an attractive woman in the vicinity of you, my boyfriend.
Then Han Seong is like, yeah, gotta go.
Yeah, immediately, he's like, oh, I'll call you later. Like, ooh.
Oh, man. And then we find out that the person that Unchan was trying to call was actually Han Seong.
Yeah.
So they have this little, like, first she's petting Sweeper and having a good time, and then they end up having another, like, late night beer drinking sesh out in front of the convenience store.
I did the math from the aerial shot. It looks like there's 3 beers each. So it's a little cool visual thing.
Yeah. So we cut to this convenience store where they're drinking some beers, and Unchan has, like, tied her hoodie around her face.
I wrote like a dork, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. So yeah, and then they have this, like, talk where, now Unchan kind of says, like, oh, okay, so, like, there's this thing going on where there's, like, Mr. X and Miss Y, and Mr. X thinks that Miss Y is a boy, and also he's, like, her boss, and it's like, oh okay, yeah. We're doing this.
And then Han Seong is like, okay, well, does Mrs. X have feelings for Mr. Y? And she's like, no, definitely not. They're just... And he's like, they're just what? And she's like, they're just nothing. They're just nothing.
And then she goes, though there is Mr. A, like, whatever. And she gets all, like, blushy and, like, and he starts, like, laughing, being like, LOL, what?
Yeah. Han Seong is like, oh man, I'm so jealous of your positive outlook. Because, like, she vents about all her drama, and then she looks at the sky and she's like, oh fuck, the stars are out. I love that.
Yeah. It's very, like, oh man. It's starting to get very evident how Unchan feels about Han Seong. She definitely has a little crush on him, and it's like she kind of recognizes it herself and is like, man, I know what's up.
Yeah, she's dealing with it now.
Yeah. So then we walk Unchan home, and I love it because Unchan gets to hold Sweeper's leash.
Yes. She's like being pulled by him.
Yeah.
And then I think she even had a line that was like, you don't have to walk me home. Like,
yeah.
Good.
It's very, very cute. And then she also makes a comment that's like, oh, this is the first time anybody has ever, like, walked me home.
True, yes. She shakes both of the dog's hands goodbye.
Yes, she's gotta.
She's like, oh, do you want to sing with me? And then she goes, oh, and the dog actor is silent.
Yeah.
And then, like, later when they try to move on a little bit, he's like,
yeah.
And Enchant, which, like, it has to be improvised, she just goes like, oh, he's a little late today.
Yeah. Because she's like, and doesn't do anything. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess not today. And then the dog goes,
yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah.
The dog actor missed his cue.
It's fine. We love him anyway.
He's a good boy. He's a union boy. He gets his rights.
Also, when Unchan is, like, going up and, like, talking to Han Seong about, like, oh, this is the first time, like, someone walked me home, he makes this comment that's like, oh, well, like, anytime you need someone to walk you home, call me. And then she goes, haha, like my dad. Yeah. And we're like, oh, okay. I guess.
It's like a 7-year age difference, yeah? We did the math on our previous
31
episode.
And she's 24.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, like a dad, more than like a boyfriend, really.
7 years is not dad level yet.
I mean, in my mind, we round that up to a cool decade.
10 is still not dad level. Maybe like weird uncle, which she keeps calling him uncle.
It's because, I think it's just because of the evident, like, visual age difference. Like, he has an older face. And she is baby.
She's got the babiest of baby faces.
And her attitude is also
She's
baby.
also very baby, yeah.
So that 10 years, it kind of triples to 30 in my mind.
Well, there you go. Now
so there's a 37-year age difference between these characters for me.
Oh my god.
And just because they're 41 years apart doesn't mean that, like, it would be wrong. But, I mean, I wouldn't date somebody who's 50 years older than me. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, to me, 7 years is still a pretty big age gap. And, like, I don't know. I grew up with parents who were, like, the exact same age. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like, to me, age gaps get, like, real big real fast.
Yes.
Just because the primary, like, relationship I saw growing up was, like, same age. And, like, I have a brother who's only, like, 2 years older than me. So, like, age gap gets real big for me real fast. So, like, I hear 7 years and I'm like, ah. But also I know that for some people that's, like, totally normal. That's, like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those cool, fun things. But, I mean, like, they have, like, a 45-year age gap. So
you're right. Oh, so she watches him go. Like, she goes upstairs and she, like, hops out her window and she's, like, watching him go bye-bye. And then we cut to the next day where she shows up to work. Hurts herself a little bit kicking Han Gyul's tire.
Oh my gosh, yeah. She kicks his car, like, angrily, and then immediately she's like, ow, my foot. And then she's like, I'm gonna put rocks in his exhaust pipe. And then immediately comes back and is like, just kidding.
No, can't do it. Take that. Don't want to scratch the chrome.
Oh, man. Very good. And guess who is here? It's Hot Waffle Boy.
My new favorite character, the Waffle Boy.
Love Hot Waffle Boy. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's great.
He wants to work, and they're like, I thought you didn't want to work. And he's like, well, I'm here, aren't I?
Yeah, he's like, my stand got confiscated. I got in trouble.
You said his stand got confiscated.
Yeah.
And I went on like a side tangent in my mind. I'm like, wait, is he a stand user?
No.
Is this the best K-drama in the world?
This is actually JoJo.
Oh, man. So he introduces himself as No Seong-gi. And no, it is an interesting name.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is that like a Japanese kind of name right there? And
a surprise.
Oh, yeah. And
guess who's Japanese?
At least half.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harim, they're the same age, but it didn't translate the number he gave for how old he was.
I got 25.
25?
Yeah.
All right, well, he looks good for 25.
Yeah, so he's 25, which means that Harim is 25 because they're same age. And
which
then
means they're both 1 year older
than Unchan.
And that would mean that they're 6 years younger than Han Seong, which means that they only have a 33-year age difference.
Oh, man. Oh, and we also find out that CB is younger than all of them, which we kind of knew already.
Yeah, he's interested in the high schooler.
Yeah. We didn't know the ages, however, of Harim and Hot Waffle Boy until now.
CB gets probably my favorite line in this episode, which is God, why are all the guys here so pretty? Like, we all look like girls, and they're like, no, you just look like a gorilla.
Oh my god, yeah, Unchan is, he's like, what are you, a boy or a girl? And Unchan is like, you can't talk, what are you, a man or a gorilla?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man. So yeah, then Waffle Boy says some stuff in Japanese, and CB is like, what'd you say? What was that? Would you speak in Japanese?
That reminds me, yeah, he gets real defensive about, like, the barest use of another language.
Yeah.
So CB asks, oh, why are all these guys so pretty? And that's where the alternate title for episode 4 comes in.
Oh, yes, tell me.
So this is episode 4, I Can't Even Think Straight, which is a phrase that's used multiple times throughout.
Yeah.
And every time somebody says it, I go, boy, you got that right.
I can't even think straight.
Sure.
Oh, man. So then we cut to flower time with Yuju.
Oh, real quick, though.
Oh, please.
Harim, our boy, he kind of pops off a little bit when he sees CB, like, oh, are you speaking Japanese?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, oh, yes, Ipai Patriot Desu. I like canned Japanese food, Ipai Des. And, like...
Oh, man. It's also really funny because, as... like, Unchan, like, takes CB away, and she even, like, makes a comment that's like, I understood what he said, you're the only one who doesn't, and it's like, yes. Oh, okay, so CB is just freaking...
He might be, like, the barest xenophobic, or,
it's
like...
fine. You know, it's not, but it's fine.
So, Desu, usually just shortened to, like, des at the end of a sentence. It's like when you're saying something is, so you could be like, oh, laptop des. Like, it is a laptop. Ipai has like 15 different meanings, I found out in doing a little bit of research. But it usually means like wholly, fully, or to the utmost. So he's like, to the utmost, I love Japanese food, it's...
Good. Yeah. Hell yeah. We love it.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you gotta.
Mr. Hong also doesn't like Seong-gi.
Well, yeah, because Mr. Hong is all about, like, my cafe should be all about the coffee. He's like, I don't want a side menu. I don't want this hot waffle boy. Get him out of here. Get him and his waffles out. Get him and his Japanese hot-ass waffles out.
Holy shit.
Listen.
Oh, man. So you're right. Ryuju is buying a shit ton of flowers.
Yeah, she's like, man, time to get me some flowers. Just for herself. Like, just because she wants them, probably to paint. She just wants some flowers.
I mean, I wonder if they're tax deductible if you're an artist and you buy flowers.
You know, I wonder. So yeah, so she buys some flowers, and then she ends up on a phone call with Han Seong, and
yeah, there's this sequence where I was like, okay, they're being cute on the phone, like whatever.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I actually wrote down, if I didn't know the background of this couple getting back together, this song scene would probably be very cute. Like, I would have seen this and been like, oh, this is adorable. Like, they're having this little, like, they're on the phone and he's singing her this song and he's like having a great time with it, and like, as is, that's a very, very cute scene. But because I know the, like, weird tension that this couple has and, like, the weird events that led to them getting back together and the fact that they're, like, pretending that it's happier than it actually is, I can't feel that, like, aw, it's so cute, because I know that it's, like, weird.
I never felt that it was cute.
Really?
Because they're cutting back and forth between Han Seong, natural lighting, like passionately singing this song, like he's goofing off or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you cut to Yuju, who is in like dark confined space the entire time. So they cut back and forth so many times that I actually noticed it, and I'm going, oh, are they showing that she's actually unhappy? And then they end the song, which, by the way, I thought it was going to be like 2 or 3 verses, maybe.
Oh, no, yeah, he's got to sing the
whole
thing.
It's about, like, it's on the soundtrack, I think. And it's just a whole song. And I'm sitting there like, oh my god, this is lasting a while. And so she says, oh, you know, I'm starting to feel sad because, like, I might listen to this song later and it make me upset. I
wrote down that last line also, where it was like, we had this whole little sequence of, like, him happily singing a song, and to me, I didn't even notice that. So I was like, oh, it's like this cute scene, but then she ends it with, it makes me sad, wondering if this song will bring me pain later. And I just wrote down, girl!
She was like, she's the rational one, though. She was the one who's like, nothing I do is gonna make you happy. Yeah, that's true. It seems like this kind of like comes back to like, I can't, Yuju to me is a very, very, I really, really like her character. I think, like you were saying earlier, she's handling a lot of this responsibly, and she seems to be the one who is actually thinking about this kind of stuff, whereas Han Seong is kind of just pretending that it's fine. Yeah, man, whew. Heavy stuff, but not in the way that it made me nervous the last couple episodes. Yes, that's true. I didn't feel like, what is going on? I was just kind of like, man. Yeah, this wasn't like the bomb under the table. This was just like a sad anvil falling on your head. Yeah. So then we cut to Mr. Hong kind of being gross. Cleaning between his toes in fast motion, then his face and teeth, like... Yeah. So, our cool new Coffee Prince gang is having dinner together. The boys are eating BBQ. Yeah. And they're having a good time. And it's kind of like we get into this little thing where it's like, oh, Han-gil and Ha-rim are talking about, like, oh, what's it like to be Un-chan like? And they're, like, kind of poking fun at her, talking about her like it's a nature documentary. They, like, throw bacon on the floor. Oh, yeah. And she, like, dusts it off and eats it. And it's like, haha, it's funny because she's so hungry. But for me, I'm like, no, she's poor. Like, yeah, right? Like, you can't just throw food on the ground in front of her and then be like, haha, look at how desperate. It does come after this, like, so Waffle Boy is just watching Un-chan eat, and is like, oh my god. Like, damn, you eaten. And then Ha-rim is kind of just like, oh yeah, like, listen, you interested in Un-chan? Let me show you what Un-chan is like, and then throws meat on the ground that she picks up and eats because, yeah, she's not just, like, she's poor. Yeah. That shit, like... Fucking, and then CB is like, oh, I'm trying to be skinny because my angel only dates thin dudes. Yeah. Oh, poor boy. That was sad. So then, Un-chan is, hearing all this shroastin', and she decides to get him back. She's like, oh yeah, well, you want to know what it's like to be like Han-gil? Oh, you yell at people and you're a jerk. And then, Mr. Hong is kind of chiming in, being like, haha, yeah, that's funny, I like it, Han-gil, like, get his ass, Un-chan. It's really cute, because, like, the translation I had, they were like, Un-chan-ish. Yes. And then she was like, what about Han-gil-tik? Like, Han-gil-tik, or I think, and it was, pretends to be stable, but is audacious. And Mr. Hong is like, oh, he's totally audacious. So, like, they're still angry at each other, and I thought it was really cool the way she, like, taps the metal chopsticks really loudly to, like, get the group's attention. Yeah. For the public roasting that's about to happen. Just letting everybody know. So then CB gets a little dwunk. Yeah, Ha-rim's like, can we get another bottle over here? Yeah. So we get some more. CB drinks a little too much, and we find out that CB is a kissy drunk. He puts beans in his shot. He literally takes a shot and puts some beans in there, mixes it around, laughs to himself a little, takes the shot, and is like, it's time to kiss every single person at this table. I agonized for a hot minute, because I was like, that's not natto. He's not putting, like, fermented soybean breakfast food in his shot. But, like, I don't know what it is. It looks straight up like baked beans. It looks like baked beans, yeah. I don't know. Why? I don't know. He's drunk, and he wants to kiss everyone. I googled bean shots for, like, 15 minutes. Did you find anything? Nothing! Maybe that was just them showing us that he's super drunk. Oh, yeah. He couldn't even taste it. So he kisses Seunggi. Seunggi is like, no, don't like. Yeah, get away. And then Ha-rim is like, if you're gonna do that, you might as well just kiss my toe. So he, like, straight up sucks the toe for a second. And then he kisses Han-gil. Han-gil's, like, shielding his own head. Yeah, he's, like, covering himself, and he gets a little kiss on the head. Mr. Hong's, like, not super bothered. He's like, whatever. Yeah, he's like, okay, whatever.
But then he comes around to Un-chan, and like Un-chan isn't really paying attention. It's just kind of like doing her own thing. And then she turns to face him, and just bam, full on mouth kiss.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole thing. Everybody is like, "Oh my god!" And I think even Sung-ki is like, "Wow, like pervert went straight for the mouth."
Yeah. And then she starts throwing lettuce at him and like smacking him around.
Yeah, she's smacking him, being like, "What was that?"
It's a lot of lettuce.
She takes like
handfuls.
4 full things of lettuce and like shoves them in his face, and then like keeps smacking him. And he's like drunk and just kind of like, "Oh, what did I do?"
And then Harim is like, "How dare you, CB? I've got dibs on Un-chan." And Hangul's like, "No, I got dibs." Then he kind of is like, "Wait, what?"
I got, in my translation, Harim goes, "Hey, stop it, Un-chan is mine." And then Hangul says, "No, what about yours? No, he's mine." And then everyone kind of looks at Hangul, and he's like,
Yeah. I can't even think straight.
He's very much just like, "Oh my god, what did I just say?"
Then Mr. Hong like takes bites out of peppers.
Yeah, he's like, "Listen."
So they can stick the chewed end up CB's nose.
Yeah.
Why?
It's punishment time for CB for kissing Un-chan on
Yeah,
the
and they're
mouth.
like, "Oh, get the garlic." And it's like, what?
Oh my god.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, yeah, so that happens. And then we cut to this cool, awkward car ride with Hangul and Un-chan.
It's interesting because he's like weaponizing his alleged homosexuality in this.
Yeah.
He's sort of being like, "Oh, well, you're blah 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 blah," and she's like, "No, I don't even like CB. You're more my type." And he's like, "Okay, knock it off. It's not funny." And it's like, you started it. She throws it back at you. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
disgusting.
He probably says something like, "Oh man, like, what did you like the kiss that you
oh,
got
your
from
face
CB?
turned all red."
And she's like, "Nah, not CB, but you on the other hand, you're my type." And yeah, he starts having a little gay panic.
Yeah, he's like, "This is not fun anymore."
Yeah, and she's like, she basically is just kind of like, "Whatever, like you started it. I'm just playing along. Don't start the game if you can't take the game."
Don't hate the player. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to New York," and then Chan's like, "What?"
Yeah, she's like, "Excuse me, you're going to New York?"
And she like doesn't get any answers from him.
Yeah.
And then he says something else that makes her go like, "Oh wow, you sure can make people fall out of love fast."
Yeah.
Like just implying that like she likes him and then she doesn't like him, or she'll likes him and then he does something and it's like, I don't like him anymore.
Yeah. So then she gets home, and then we cut to this kind of like get ready montage / like opening day starting up montage, where we kind of have the rom-com staple playing in the background.
Everlasting Love is the rom-com staple.
Have you watched probably haven't watched a lot of rom-coms, right?
Not many.
Oh my god. I heard this song starting and I totally forgot that it was in this series, but I started like my mind was just playing how many movies I've seen where it's like there's some kind of montage where someone's running down the street and it's just going, "This will be an everlasting love." Yeah. I heard it starting and I was like, I know exactly what song this is. I know what's going on.
I wrote down, I was like, "Oh, American song." Like, I recognize this kind of.
No, yeah, that's like it's like a very, very classic, like, rom-com song, like, Christmas movie song. I feel like I remember hearing it in, like, Christmas kind of, like, romancy, drama, heartwarming movies. It's very, very classic.
Their uniforms are also very classic and very cute. It's kind of like a nice vest situation. Everybody's getting ready for the grand opening. Mr. Hong is just kind of like conspicuously cutting up a shit ton of leaves and like putting them next to the cakes.
Yeah, he's like picking up leaves and like being like, "All right, I'm gonna decorate the cakes with this leaf and this rock."
Yeah, and Chan draws a coffee prince and a coffee princess on the window.
Cute.
And CB draws a big scary face. They let him keep it up.
They're like, "Okay."
Hangul does the menu board, and then Mr. Hong like sucks on a booger.
Yeah, dude, you got it.
That's what his character does.
So yeah, this cafe has really, really cleaned up. It looks really, really cute. It looks nice. And then we kind of cut to like, oh, it's opening day, and like things are popping, things are going great. There's all these ladies everywhere.
Oh, before they show up though, Mr. Hong tries to like lead them in a chant.
Yeah,
he's like, we gotta do something motivational. So in order of descending enthusiasm, CB is the only one who's like in on it, and then Harim is like, yeah. And then Un-chan is like, what?
What is going on?
Seung-gi didn't even open his mouth.
Nah, he doesn't care.
He was like,
He's angsty and his nails are black.
Oh yeah, they are perfectly painted black.
Oh man. So then we have this opening day, and then guess who comes and visits? It's Unchan's family.
Yes, it is.
They roll up, and her mom is like, "My son at work.
Yes,
hello,
my baby boy."
So then, CB sees Unse, and he's like, oh, "My angel," and he like takes her hand, and he pulls her over to this like terrifying face that he drew on the wall, and he like reads it out, and he's like, "Look, angel, for you," and she's like, "What is this?"
And then looking through the window, she sees Seung-gi and is like, "I want that."
She sees Hot Waffle Boy, and she's like, "Ooh, that boy hot." And then she kind of like sneaks away from CB to go look at Hot Waffle Boy.
Gleefully, Goblin runs out of there.
Yeah.
Just like, ooh, I felt so bad for CB in that
I know.
moment.
I think I even wrote like, "Oh, CB is so cute," because he did like draw this thing on the window and was like, "Look, I did it. I drew you," and it was terrible, but like, man. He's just like, I feel like every time I see him again, I'm like, oh man, it's either like my heart is like, "Aw, CB," or it's like, "Oh, CB."
So in my notes, I wrote that she sees Seung-gi and falls for his Baishonen ass.
Yes, of course.
Because he is maybe partially Japanese. So
he is. He like says it, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, my translation like left it ambiguous.
Oh no.
I was like, so I don't know if he was half or like full or what. But...
I don't know if it said what percentage, but no, yeah, he's Japanese.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
At least to some extent.
Well, you know, this reminds me of something that I learned when I was really little that I feel like I want to share.
Please
I don't know if I've told you this before, but
okay.
I've mentioned Bruce Lee movies to you before and how I watched a lot of those growing up.
Yeah.
There's one called Chinese Connection. And Bruce Lee's master at the beginning of the movie, spoilers for this movie that came out a long, long time ago, is killed.
Oh no, that's a big spoiler.
Bruce Lee is trying to figure out, like, oh, who did it? And then he goes into the kitchen one night and sees two men bandaging themselves. And this man is bandaged below his chest, like on his tummy. So the camera, Bruce Lee sees this man, it zooms in on his nipple.
Got it.
And then it pans back to Bruce Lee and goes, "So you're Japanese." So...
What?
The only thing I can infer there is that Bruce Lee knew he wasn't Chinese by the coloration of his nipple.
Oh my god.
And it was such an understood thing that they used it in a movie.
Well...
But I digress.
Alright, I had no idea about this nipple discourse.
You can see it. If you go watch Chinese Connection, that scene, it still blows my mind that made it into a movie.
Wild.
Oh yeah. And... anyway, I just wanted to say, Baishonen means, like, pretty man. Or I'll probably shorten it to bish, as I keep...
Yeah, I feel like I read that word and I didn't think that it was... I would always say, like, bishonen, not Baishonen.
Oh.
Because I don't know... This is also... So, like, you know this, but I study linguistics. I study language, and a lot of what I've learned about, like, pronunciation and, like, phonetics in Japanese is that because it's very, like, consonant-vowel, all of the vowels are very pure, which means that diphthongs, like I... don't really occur that often. Yeah. So it would be more likely if the I was pronounced like an I or an E as opposed to like that harsh diphthong, just because that's not really like a characteristic of the language.
I think you're right. So so Seung-gi the Bishonen.
The Bishonen. We can call him, I'm just gonna keep calling him Hot Waffle Boy, because to me, it's what he is.
I like Hot Waffle Boy.
He makes waffles, and he's hot.
He eats hot chip. And he lies. Oh boy.
Oh man. So anyway, yeah. Also, Hangul's family shows up.
Yeah, and we get like a lot of like just sort of bringing everything together.
Yeah.
So Mr. Hong sees the mama, and he calls her. Oh, I'm sorry. That's further on in my notes. Mr. Hong sees Hangul's family roll up, and he's like, "Oh, his mom, yeah, she's just some rich woman who married a rich man."
Yeah, he makes a comment about how, like, she's been rich her whole life, and then she marries a rich man. She's never known any, like, struggle. Of course she's pretty, and it's like, oh.
It's like a weird, like, he's upset about something.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm friends with the chairwoman, though."
Ooh, we're getting, like, bits and pieces of this history that they have, and, like, I feel like every time I get another piece, I'm more confused.
Yeah, and of course Unchan is like here for this explanation, so she knows a little bit more, but it's still like nothing. Like we don't know what the relationships there are.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Grandma rolls up and Hangul like goes down to greet them, and he goes like, "Ah, Grandma," and she like slaps
his hand away.
And he's like, "All right," and then he just goes to his mom. He's like, "Hey, Mom."
Hey, Mom. Yeah.
So they roll up to see what's going on, and then also Han Seong rolls up to the grand opening, and Unchan sees Han Seong and is like, oh my god, he's here, and like wants to go like say hey to him, but then he's hanging out with Hangil's family because we find out that he's actually Hangil's cousin.
I thought it was brothers. I was so sure. I wrote brothers in my notes.
Oh.
And then they say cousins, and I'm like, oh god, I guess I called that one wrong.
Surprise, they're cousins. But yeah, so they're cousins, and then Unchan has this realization that she's like, oh, Han Seong knows that I'm a lady, which means that I gotta tell him that he can't tell nobody that I'm a lady. And she starts freaking out and like is waving her arms, trying to get his attention, and waving the tray and being like, please look over here.
And then she runs around to the window and she's like, call me.
Yeah, she's doing like window charades, being like, just call me. So he's like, okay. So he calls her, and then she's like freaking out. She's like, okay, don't say anything. Don't answer me. Just listen to what I say.
She's frantic, yeah.
And he's like, okay. And she's like, don't answer me. And he's like, and then she like leads him to this alleyway next to the cafe, and she's like, they don't know that I'm a girl. You gotta pretend I'm a boy. And Han Seong is like,
laughing.
He's having a great time with
30.
it.
He's got a good perspective on
he's
life.
He's like, oh, I see. So Mr. X is Hangul, and you're Miss Y. Oh, I get it. Haha, this is so funny. I can't believe that they think you're a boy.
And she's like, it's not funny.
He even makes a comment where he's like, how can they think that you're a boy? Like, anybody
you're so
at first
feminine,
glance would know that you're a girl.
Oh.
Which is quite an interesting take.
Yeah. And then, she tells him not to let the secret out.
Mm-hmm.
During this, Unchan's mama walks over to like Mr. Hong, who's making coffee, and he has like his first genuine on-screen smile.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't look like some kind of crazy old man. He just is actually happy.
He's like, hey.
And then Mr. Koo, who came with them, he starts like seeing the spark between them, and he's like, "Doc, gotta get out of here! Like, let's go home. You don't want to get a tan.
Yeah,
let's go walk down the stone road of love."
And Mr. Hong is like, interesting. You don't want her to get a tan. Why would you go for a walk in the sun? That's weird.
He puts him in his McFreaking place for sure. And then like as they're walking away, he calls Mr. Koo a psycho, and I'm like, ooh, yeah. Got another love triangle.
Bum, 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 bum.
It's hereditary, as we'll find out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So anyway,
well, after she tells Han Seong, please don't out me, somebody says something to the effect of, I can't even think straight.
Of course, because we always say it.
I wrote that in my notes.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the team putting chairs away for the day.
Yes, that's right. The day is over, and we are cleaning ourselves up. Oh, yes, so CB kind of, like, goes to Hangil, and he makes a comment that's, like, before he leaves, he's kind of like, thank you for hiring me, essentially, and, like, thank you for, like, forgiving me for my mistake.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, runs off, and I'm like, aw, CB.
In mine, he said, I think I had fun today.
Aw. So. Yeah, mine, I think he said today was interesting. But I knew that in other translations that I've seen, it was something to the effect of, like, I enjoyed myself. Because, like, he does. He likes working here, and he likes his cool new friends.
Wholesome.
So that happens, and then we cut to them leaving for the day, and Unchan is trying to start her bike, and it's not working, and she's kind of, like, being like, stupid, this always happens.
Yeah.
And Hangul is like, hey, like, don't worry about it, just come in, or, like, ride home with me. And she's like, no, it's fine, I'll figure it out. And he's like, no,
he's like, come on, I gotta go, car. Get in.
But then he gets a call from Yuju. And he's like, hey, Yuju, what's up? And she's like, come hang out with me. And he's like, hey, Unchan, something came up. I gotta
emergency.
Go. Bye. And she's like, but you're gonna give me a ride. He's like, nope. And he speeds off.
She even says, well, that was fast.
Yeah.
Like, just to spell it out any clearer that you are not his first priority.
Yeah.
Like, it was cold-hearted. I wrote, so she's gonna hop in the car with Hangil. And then next sentence, or she was going to, and he fucking bails like a dickweed.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
I wrote Dichin Unchan for Yuju with 2 exclamation points, and then Hangul in all caps with 2 exclamation points. So he decides that he wants to go meet Yuju because she called for him.
Yeah.
And I just like, I cannot get out of my head the way that he described it last episode, where he talks about it as like a bad habit that he just like keeps going back to and that he can't stop.
It's very true.
Yeah. So he goes to see her. And, like, not even for, like, this isn't even, like, they talk for, like, a while.
It's like a short thing.
Yeah.
She she's like, I'm the first person to wish you happy birthday.
Yeah, and he's like, it's actually in a week.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, you want to come upstairs for some tea? And he's like, oh, well, I can't even think straight right now.
Of course, because we never can.
Yeah, we never can. I might try to hold your hand or something.
Oh, yeah.
And she, like, pokes his eyes, or, like, rubs his face, or puts her hand down across his eyelids, and she goes, don't, and then, like, leaves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the shit I do like.
Yeah.
Where he's like, hey, I might cross this boundary, and she's like, not if I don't let you by.
She's like, okay, well, if you're gonna cross the boundary, then let's not freaking hang out.
I'm gonna leave you here in the friend zone while I go upstairs to my apartment alone.
Yeah. I feel like this episode we really get to see a lot more of Yuju and just like how she's dealing with everything and her personality as well. And I really, really start to like her character more and more.
Yes.
Just because I feel like she is, out of everyone, the most rational. And also just kind of like, I don't know, she's just like a good person.
She's the cool older sister that she is.
Yeah.
Like, we see her the same way.
Yeah.
We're like, oh no, what's she gonna do?
Yeah.
Probably something responsible.
She does end up getting him a really sweet gift. Like, he opens it up in the car, and it's like this little alligator thing that like bites his hand.
Yeah.
And he opens it and he laughs, and then he goes to open the card, and it even says like, laugh just like that. Like, you should laugh. And it's very sweet. It's like like that's the sweet kind of shit I want, you know. If my friends did that for me, I would be like,
I'm glad you got to see what the card says, because I did not.
Oh,
so I was just wondering the whole time, and I'm like, is there some joke that I'm missing here with the alligator?
Oh,
like,
man.
Like...
Yeah, so we'll learn more about Han-gul and like the things that he likes in later episodes, but yeah, this is definitely a gift that he was like, that's something that he would have liked.
And then he texts her, and I'm assuming it just says like turn around or something, and she looks out the window of her stairs, and he's up there like on a parking garage roof, and he just starts like breaking it down and like dancing.
He does this cute little thing where he kind of like checks to make sure no one's watching, and then he just starts like dancing, and I wrote down, God damn it, Han-gul, you're so cute, damn it!
It was very cute.
It's very, very cute, very sweet, really, really just like good moment. So now we cut to Welcome to the Coffee Prince Tired Boys, where there's no customers.
Yeah.
It's day 2 and nobody is here.
Nobody.
Mr. Hong is in this, like, mosquito net, like, set up eating noodles or something.
I was really sure that's just where he sleeps.
Yeah, that's what I thought, that it was going to be, like, cut to morning and they were going to come in and be like, oh, because, you know, this is, like, his house, so this is where he sleeps. But no, it turns out it's, like, the middle of the day and there's just no customers.
Yeah.
And so they're all just kind of trying to entertain themselves.
They're trying to entertain themselves, and CB is out for vengeance.
Oh my gosh, yeah. CB rolls up, and he's like, you're still seeing Un-se. You didn't break up with her or anything. Y'all are still together. And Un-chan is like, what? And he's like, we have to battle. This ends today.
I don't know if it was just my translation, but the phrase, let's duke it out, was used like 8 or 9 times this episode. I did
not get that, but I wish I did.
Oh yeah, so he's like, let's duke it out. And then I'm like, oh cool, they're finally gonna like bring in the Taekwondo stuff, and she's just gonna flip him around a bit, and that'll be the end of it.
But nope, it's shovel time.
It's time to dig?
Yeah, he's like, whoever can dig the most. And Un-chan does a really smart thing where instead of being like, let's dig at the same time, she's like, okay,
right,
you go first. So he digs, and they're all, like, cheering for him.
Yeah, it's very Bugs Bunny-esque.
Yeah, it's very funny, because, like, Un-chan and Harim are both kind of, like, playing along with it, being, like, having a good time. And Waffle Boy is also there, but he, like, does not
He's, like, reading a book, because of course.
He's just reading a book, being like, whatever. And, Un-chan and Harim are like, wow, look at you, you're so good at digging, oh my gosh, you're doing a great job, like, snickering to themselves.
Oh, God, yeah.
So then it's Un-chan's turn to dig, and she just, like, doesn't.
Yeah, he takes his shirt off while digging, so, like, we at least have something to, like, look at during this. And then they start trying to bury him when it's like, their turn.
Just throwing the dirt at him.
He, like, lifts up, like, a cluster of roots, and he's like, aha!
So then, since that competition was a bust, now it's time to have a water drinking competition where they pour, like, giant, like, big
like
water
10-gallon
cooler
water
gallons
jugs.
of water into buckets. And he's like, all right, drink. And CB starts drinking, and Un-chan is just, like, pretending to drink, and Harim is, like, egging her on.
Oh, yeah, he's like, oh, go faster, he's catching up.
Yeah, you gotta drink all the water. And then they, like, sneak away.
Yeah, I wrote, like, this is too weird. They're on the clock, right? Like, you can't just do this when there's nobody at your job.
Yeah, I literally wrote, there's no customers, so let's dig for Un-se. And then, oh, now it's a water drinking competition? And then they're just pranking CB, honestly. They're just, like, goofing on him.
They were one step away from just being like, okay, come kick this football.
Oh, no. So then, Hangil comes back, and all he sees is Mr. Hong, and he's like, what's going on? Where's everybody? And Mr. Hong is like, oh, they're playing basketball.
Oh, yeah.
So Hangil is not happy about that. Rightfully so. They are on the clock. They should not have run away to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And he rolls up, and it's punishment time for the naughty boy.
It's so strange. Because he's like, oh, so you guys like basketball? All right, 1 hour, street hoops, 2-on-1. And I'm like, this is not how I would result. I don't think, like, when they teach you how to be a manager, they're probably not like, okay, challenge your employees to street hoops.
So, it is interesting. I wrote this down probably because I have seen this come up in at least one other show that I've watched, where the punishment that Hangil decides is this, like, 1 hour nonstop basketball punishment, which is interesting because he could have done something and been like, you have to, I don't know, some other kind of, like, physical punishment, like running laps or telling them that they have to do whatever. But he instills this punishment where he has to actually play with them. Yes. So he too is a part of this, like, he has to play basketball nonstop for 1 hour. Which to me was kind of interesting, because as opposed to him sending them off to, like, atone for their wrongdoing of, skipping work and playing basketball, he puts himself in this position where he has to do it with them.
Yes.
So I thought that was interesting, and I thought that kind of spoke for, like, the kind of boss that Hangil is.
Yeah, and he leaves Harim and Sungi doing, like, back bends with their heads.
Yeah, they're doing this thing where they're balancing on, like, their head and their feet, and they have to keep their arms behind their back.
Yeah.
And they kind of bail on that halfway through anyway.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, never mind.
Also bails. Like,
oh, yeah.
This basketball setup was so specific that I'm like, oh no. Is he gonna be like, it's shirts versus skins?
Right.
Yeah, or just like, oh, is she gonna get so sweaty that, like, you can see the binding through her shirt?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, that didn't happen.
They play basketball, and I think I wrote down, these don't look like legal basketball moves, because it's very much just kind of like CB puts Unchan on his shoulders and is, like, dunking that way, and they're running around and, like, grabbing Hangil's leg. And it's very good, and then eventually CB taps out. He can't do it anymore. He's tired. He joins the sit pile.
Yes.
And then it's just Unchan and Hangil for the rest of the hour. And at the end, Unchan is, like, dead tired. Everyone is tired, and Hangil makes a comment that's like, Unchan, you're cool. I didn't expect you to stick it out to the end. I thought you would bail early, just like CB. So for that, you're pretty cool. And then, like, walks away as Unchan is just laying on the pavement, like, okay.
Yeah, and she literally says, like, oh, now you notice?
Yeah, she's like,
you only notice me
now.
Thank
God you noticed that I'm cool.
It took you this long to notice that I am fucking cool.
Yeah.
God.
So then, it's fountain time.
Yeah, they're like walking away, and Seunggi, he says, like, what am I doing here, in Japanese?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we do get this short clip of them, like, walking, and I wrote down again, aw, CB, because again, he comes in with the cute little moment where he, like, walks up to Hangil and he's like, hey, I'm sorry that we did this, I'm sorry we ran off to play basketball and that we were goofing off on time, but, like, I have fun.
Yeah, he says, like, I'm gonna stop challenging him to these contests.
Yeah.
So that's character growth.
Yeah.
And then they do, like, a hard cut to everybody standing with their backs to the fountain, flicking a coin in and saying, coffee prince?
Oh my god, yeah, it's really cute.
That's, like, a very cute, like, setup for, like, oh, we're wishing right now.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of fall backwards and splash around like they're recreating the opening of Friends.
Yeah. And then Hangil even says, like, oh, like, I wish that, like, 3 times the investment or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, please let me triple the investment.
And then they all jump in the fountain, they have a good time. And then we cut to Unchan having to change out of her wet clothes, and she's, like, kind of muttering to herself, being like, God damn it, I'm so stupid. How did I not think that would be a stupid thing, that the water would soak through my clothes and I would have to change and be maybe found out.
Yes.
So she's trying to change, and then, uh-oh, danger. She's using the public locker room that is unlocked.
Yes.
So she hides in the locker as the other boys come in to change.
Yeah, and they're, like, all getting changed, and CB's like, oh, my locker is stuck. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. And then Harim is like, oh, let me try. And then, like, at that moment, Unchan has, like, gotten her shirt situation fixed to the point where she can, like, burst out. And she, like, kind of lays CB out a bit. She's like, boom, got him.
Yeah, she's like, haha, gotcha, whatever, and then, like, runs away. So she really does kind of make the most of this locker.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good way to get out of that situation.
Harim is like, oh, man, she showed you. And then CB's like, oh no, she ate all my snacks.
Yeah, he's like, my snacks.
Because he just had like a massive number of bags of food in his locker.
Oh man.
Gosh.
So yeah, that's good. So then it's meeting time. We have to have a meeting about the cafe because we didn't have any customers like at all on the second day.
What's up with that?
So we have a meeting and it's kind of like Mr. Hong versus Hangul in a way because Mr. Hong is kind of being like this is wrong, and then Harim is trying to kind of like come back and defend his boy, and then Unchan is kind of confused. Like she's like, he's going to America, and then she's like, what is happening?
What do you mean triple the investment?
And then Hangul comes in and is like, hey, and he and Mr. Hong kind of argue a little bit, and CB makes yet another adorable comment. He's like, no, stop fighting, we're a family. And I'm like,
Mr. Hong, in my translation, said 4 or 5 times, he's like, stop dissing me. I know when I'm being dissed. And then Harim's like, I don't think he's dissing you. And he's like, I know he's dissing me.
Yeah, I don't think I got the same wording, but I did get the same kind of sentiment of like, you know, stop talking down to me, blah, blah, blah. And Harim is kind of like, I think he's just trying to like do this. And Mr. Hong is like, no, I know what's happening. I know what he's saying about me. I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, I feel a little bad for Mr. Hong because, like, every time he chimes in, like, his contribution is overlooked even though he's equal partners with Hong.
Yeah. Not to mention, he obviously knows his stuff.
Yes. I kind of disagree with, like, his argument of, like, I told you we should have been targeting the old-timers.
Yeah, I disagree with that as well just because of the field research that they did. But at the same time, it sucks to see... Because, one, you know, he's, like, he has kind of, like... He is older than all of them, so he has kind of like that age hierarchy under his belt, and he has shown that he like knows what he's doing. He knows how to make coffee, he knows how to roast these beans. He did think of the idea to sell the beans back. Like, he's obviously a valuable asset to this cafe.
Yes.
And his ideas are being ignored without a second thought. So,
yeah, dismissed out of hand.
Yeah,
it really sucks.
So then it's family dinner time, featuring Han Seong. He's popped in.
Featuring Dad, who may have a crush on Han Seong. Just the way this actor is looking at Han Seong, he's being like, wow. You're so cool.
Oh, man. I do think it's meant to be kind of like Han Seong, even though he's not his son, is
my
like
good son.
The better one.
Yeah,
and
my
then Hangul
nephew
is the one that's not as good.
Oh, yeah. The dad, the mom or the grandmother is like, oh yeah? Tell your dad how much you sold today. And then it's just like Hangul silent, like chewing his food, and then it cuts to the exterior.
Yeah.
Like where Han Seong is now asking like, hey, were you offended that time? We invited you over?
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah, hey, remember when we invited you over and you thought it was gonna be just you and Yoo-Joo and you were gonna have like a cool moment, but then you found out that like we got back together and we made it really awkward? Hey, was that cool?
Yeah.
And Hangul is like, why are you asking me this?
He's like, oh, I already forgot about that.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, I've been agonizing over it. Blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. And then they kind of talk about Yoo-Joo a little bit.
Yes, I actually wrote down, it's interesting seeing the way that they talk about Yoo-Joo because they both have like different perspectives of Han Seong is like, this is his longtime ex, now time girlfriend, and for Hangul, she's just kind of like this cool older friend that he's been crushing on. So like, the things that Hangul notices about her are not the things that Han Seong notices about her. And they make that apparent by talking about specifically like one trait that she has.
Yeah, in my translation, they did it like a little bit poetically where Han Seong is like, oh, you know, I'm having like a hard time pinning her down or whatever. Or like, I think he meant to be like getting her to be less free-spirited. And Hangul responds by being like, oh, well, like, she's a butterfly. You can't just, like, pin her down.
Yeah, they actually said that in mine, too.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then he mentions, like, that's, like, her charm.
Yeah, he's like, that's what I like about her.
And then Han Seong
like,
is like, that's interesting. I've never thought of that as, like, a charm.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's very interesting.
And then Han Seong tells him that Unchan delivers his milk.
Yes. You know, just letting him know.
Yeah, just making the connections.
Yeah. So then we cut to coffee lessons with Unchan, where Unchan is practicing her coffee skills, and Hangul comes in and is kind of like, hey, what you doing? And she's like, I'm practicing my coffee skills. And he's like, let me try, as he does always.
Very
anytime that Unchan does something that she's like practiced hard and is good at.
Anything that's like a skill that you can't get in one go, he's like, well, I can do it first try.
Yeah, and then he can't, and then, you know.
That's how it is.
It is. It's very cool seeing this side of Unchan that's very, very much hardworking. Because she does mention, she's like, oh, I've practiced like a lot. Like I wanted to make good coffee, so I practiced, and now I think I've gotten pretty good. And she even like has him try the coffee, and she's like, oh, it's really good, like this cup I made. Yeah. So it's a for me a really, really good moment for Unchan. I enjoyed seeing that.
She asks like, "Are you still mad?" And he goes, "Oh, was I mad?" And I'm like, yeah, bitch, you were really fucking mad.
You yelled at her in front of everybody, Hungil. Don't shit. No, stop it.
Stupid. And he has to work, so he's like, all right, everybody out.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I can help. And he's like, no, you can't.
He's like, no.
And she's like, well, mate, I'm good at everything. I can help. And he's like, well, I can't work when other people are around, so you gotta go. And he, like, shoos her away, even though she obviously wants to hang out. And on her way out, she opens up the windows and sings happy birthday to him.
Yeah. Aww.
And she exits, and she comes back into frame and, like, bows and leaves again. Like, makes him laugh.
Yeah, it's yet another kind of, like, we see that Unchan kind of wants to spend time with Hangul. She wants to be there and she wants to help him, and he's kind of being like, no. So then we cut to this really great talk that we get between Unchan and Unsei, where they're in their room, and Unsei is, like, doing cool, like, exercises.
Yeah, and she gets to have the mattress.
Yeah.
And Unchan sleeps, like, on the floor with her big bowl of Doritos next to her. Yeah. And her milk, or cookies that may have been.
She was eating, like, milk and cookies, yeah. Because there was definitely, like, she dipped the cookie into the milk. Because we love cookies and milk.
Unchan calls out her sister for, like, leading CB on while pursuing Seunggi.
Yeah.
Which was good to see.
And Unsei even kind of is like, how is my hot waffle boy? How's he doing? And she's like, dude...
Yeah.
But then we get into this talk where they're like, two-timing is our family's trademark.
Yeah, it runs in the family. How weird.
Because Unsei kind of, like, admits that she's like, oh, I'm trailing CB along because he might be useful to me.
She literally says, like, well, it would be a waste otherwise.
Yeah. Meanwhile, she's following after Hot Waffle Boy because he's hot and he makes waffles.
Yes.
And then... she says, like, you know, like, even our mom, that's, like, think about our mom, you know, she's got...
Mr. Koo and Mr. Hong.
Koo and Mr. Hong, yeah. And then Unchan kind of sits and she's like, wait a minute. Am I two-timing? And Unsei is like, tell me all about it, sis.
She's not even half-timing. This is ridiculous.
So she sits and she kind of goes that she's like, okay, well, there's these two guys. And it's really interesting because she describes Han Seong as like a warm blanket and the morning sun. She's like, he makes me feel like happy and warm.
I thought they were being very clever. When she's like, oh, he makes me feel all fluffy. And I'm like, oh, she doesn't mention a name. Like, this could be Hangil or Han Seong. And then she follows it up by being like, and then there's this other guy who makes me mad all the time. And sometimes I think he's good, and then he makes me mad, and I'm like, okay, that's Hangil. So she was talking about Han Seong the first time.
Oh, yeah, no. Han Seong is the one that... And, I mean, we can kind of see it evident in, like, anytime that she's with Han Seong, she's very much kind of, like, smiling and giggling and having a good time. And when she's with Hangul, she's happy, but it's obvious that she kind of, like, she's a little frustrated. You know, she doesn't quite know what to do. But yeah, so she describes Han Seong as like a warm blanket, like the morning sun, and then Hangul, she's kind of like, well, he's annoying, but he's not a bad person. He's not like a bad person, but he's not really like a good person. Yeah. And she's like, he always makes me angry, but like, I don't know, I don't think he's bad, blah, blah. And then she ends it up by just kind of going like, what am I saying? And like smacking her own head.
And says like, oh, girl, you are two-timing.
Yeah, she's like, welcome to the family business, sis.
You're not dating either one of them. You're not two-timing. But literally... even Unchan's response to it is, she's like, oh, you're two-timing. And she goes, yeah, but they hot, though.
Literally. She's like, but they're so good-looking.
They're so handsome.
And she's like, well, yeah.
Fun time, two-timing.
So then we cut to, it's morning time at Coffee Prince. And Unchan rolls up and Hangil is like asleep on one of the couches. And she's got milk for him with little notes on it.
Like a little sticky note drawings on it too. It's very cute.
Very cute, very reminiscent of her little like footprint notes from last episode.
Yeah, and as I was watching this, I'm going, oh, is it going to be like a cute little love letter? Like, is she going to be like, oh, hey, and then like leave it and walk out or something? And I'm like, oh, yeah, because if the episode's about to end, it'll be a really cute cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But instead, she puts the milk down, pokes his face a couple times, and he's like, like waking up. And then she just starts blowing air at him until his eyes are completely open. He's looking at her, blowing air at him, and we freeze frame.
We freeze frame on her, like, going right at his face, and he's like, what? And then it's just, boom, freeze frame, roll credits. Look at what'll happen in the next episode.
Bizarre.
Which we skip. We don't watch that because we've got to talk about it.
Yes.
But yeah, and that is episode 4.
Yay!
Oh, man. It's a good one.
It's a bumper episode, I think.
What does that mean?
It means, like, good.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot to go through.
Yeah.
You could have, like, a bumper crop.
Oh.
Like when your plants give you much corn.
Oh.
This episode gave me much corn.
I'm glad.
Welcome back to Corn Prince, y'all.
Welcome to Corn Prince.
So, this episode delivered on the promise that last episode made that I was very excited for, which is we're going to see this, like, familial unit start to form and bond.
Yeah.
So we very much got that with the basketball discipline.
Mm-hmm.
We got that when they were all working together on the first day, which I thought was very good, the way that everybody's doing their job and everybody's doing their job well.
Mm-hmm.
And we also got, like, a little bit of the turmoil with Mr. Hong and Han Gyul, who are supposed to be equal partners, not respecting each other.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those situations where I feel like Grandma's very wise. So Grandma's, like, putting these two people in the situation together, knowing that they're gonna learn from each other.
Yeah.
And that they're going to, like, have to iron this out.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we get more with, like, Unchan's family a little bit that I was excited for. With this, like, legacy of two-timing that they have.
Yeah.
Which is completely unfair, because I don't think any one of them is in a relationship. It's just that they have interest in different people.
Yeah, it's literally, like, not so much two-timing. It's more kind of, like, I don't know. It's interesting, too, because, yeah, it's not even like they're leading two people on. It's just kind of like there's two people.
If you asked, like, Han Seong and Han Gyul, neither of them would be like, oh, yeah, I'm in a relationship with Unchan.
Yeah, neither of them would probably even be like, oh, yeah, we flirting. Yeah. They didn't even know.
They would never admit, yeah. We flirting.
We flirting. You know how it is.
So how did this episode make you feel?
I really, really liked this episode. I think I was very excited for the kind of, like, the forming of this, the boys of Coffee Prince. I really, really like the dynamic that they have, and I like the adventures that we go on with them. It's very fun. So, yeah, I think, I don't know, there wasn't really as much from this episode where I feel like, oh, I saw something new or I thought about something different, other than kind of, like, the same kind of, like, oh, seeing Han Seong and Yuju's relationship in a different light.
Yes.
Because that's still kind of there. I think that there is a little bit of, like, also kind of better understanding the relationship between Yuju and Han Gyul, because I do think that in the past I was kind of like, oh, he has a crush on her and he needs to stop so he can like Unchan instead. And now it's a bit more like really paying attention to those things, like him describing her as a bad habit and just kind of like continuing to go back to her because it's something that he enjoys, like spending time with her and being around her, but also knowing that it's not good for him. So that kind of stuff I paid to a little bit more. I think this time around I like CB even more. Like, I feel like in the past I liked him, but like right now he's like one of my favorite characters.
He's been a mobile character too.
I really like him, yeah.
Because he starts out and you're like, oh, this asshole sis had to call Unchan to like deal with him. And now he's like, we're a family.
We love him so much.
Even though he like tried to steal someone's purse a few episodes ago.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. And I do think that this time around I think I like him even more. And I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's just because, I don't know. I think he's great, and I don't remember thinking that he was this great in past rewatchings. So, you know what? I'm a big CB fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this episode, and I'm very excited for the next one because I know it's coming.
Of
so
course.
I'm ready.
And I am unprepared.
That's right. Oh, man. All right, well, that's all we have for episode 4. Thank you guys so much for joining, for listening, for talking, and I didn't cry this time. There was no crying moment for me here.
Yeah?
Yeah, not this time.
I didn't know you cried during the last one.
I don't think I did. I thought about it a little bit. I wanted to.
Thought about crying. Alright, y'all, well, thanks for listening. We felt cute. Maybe cry later.
Yeah, dude, felt cute. Maybe cry later. Oh, man. Bye.
Bye.